Greetings to everyone. You can support this channel about scary stories, right under the last video that you are from Felon, please, I will be very grateful to you. This is a continuation of the story where Naruto gets a second chance, but in the guise of a girl. Chapter 21 to 27. Before starting the video, subscribe to the channel and like it, this is very important to me, thank you. Enjoy watching. Chapter 21. Chunin Shuriken beginning. Namake's always POV. To be honest, I didn't expect babysitting Yamato to be so much fun. Although initially I thought that Toussaint had started all this in vain, and I still didn't believe that she would refrain from using chakra. However, my fears were in vain. Naruto surprisingly accurately followed all the instructions and even enthusiastically argued about something with Tsunadeheim. I had no idea that her knowledge of medicine was so extensive. At least, Senju was clearly pleased and rubbed her hands in anticipation, no longer speaking on the topic that she did not need any students. True, a little later I realized that I had underestimated female solidarity in vain. Yamato, who had decided to use her time usefully, now went to the hospital to brew her terrible potions. Who do you think she tried some of her experiments on? Right. I thought that she forgave my joke that morning. At that time I was still sincerely touched by the sniffling, like an angry hedgehog, Yamato. Until I came across my reflection in the bathroom the next day. And how did she get into my room? And most importantly, where did you get the permanent paint? I then had to walk under the henge all day. Until Ka-chan came home and forced Naruto to give me some liquid to clean it off. That day I was able to appreciate the endurance of Yamato and her knowledge of Konoha, and also greatly amused the Uchiha patrols, who, seeing me under the henge chasing Naruto, tried to detain me. I still remember the laughter of Shursui, who had just returned, and the face of Itachi, carefully suppressing a smile, when they brought me to the station. And you won't be able to dig in. They were simply keeping order, and the Yamato who rushed to the first patrol they came across with a panicked look, and was also out of breath, could not help but evoke a desire to protect. After all, not only is she the daughter of the Hokage, she is also the fiancée of one of the heirs, and the fact that she was able to escape on the sly, it's their own fault. The girl was scared. Yes, if I were them, I would have torn apart anyone who dared to offend this golden-haired and blue-eyed angel. Well, Sasuke, who was now being dragged along by Itachi everywhere with him when Fugaku-san scolded his subordinates, spoke in something like this spirit. At the same time, the little bastard completely forgot about the far from angelic character of Mayemo, and even sparkled at me with satisfaction. However, in this he was suddenly supported by all those gathered. Even the subordinates of his Toussaint were clearly not offended by Naruto, who unwittingly set them up, but here's why. The answer turned out to be simple to the point of banality. Yamato, it turns out, is now adored by almost the entire Uchiha clan. And when did she manage to tie them all to her so much, including Fugaku-san? Well, otherwise his instantly softened gaze at the mention of Yamato was difficult to decipher. In general, this would have been the end of the conflict if not for the formalities. I still remember the face of Toussaint and the shadows of Obito and Kakashi following him in ANBU masks, who today acted as his guard when they arrived at the station to pick me up. This is unforgettable, as is their reaction after my brief story about why this happened and the demonstration of the art of my beloved Yamato. I haven't been so ashamed for a long time. Although it's my own fault. A member of ANBU, he foolishly set himself up for a genin, and the fact that she is my little sister doesn't change anything. But it's still a shame, because Toussaint might not have been attracted if it weren't for Jiraiya-san, or rather his call, which brought Fugaku-san some kind of message. I'm terribly interested in what he wrote there, because of which he just chuckled and did not make my life easier, saying that I had violated the order and had to serve my sentence until one of my friends or relatives took me away. No, what did they tell him there? I know that these are Naruto's tricks, I'm sure, but how did she persuade Gigi to help her? You can't force this scoundrel to help so easily, especially without Toussaint's knowledge. The answer turned out to be simple to the point of banality, and I received it from Gigi. Naruto, knowing the habits of her godfather, went to the springs, and here's the problem. Although for her it was rather luck, 2 friends were taking water treatments there, one of whom had just been released from the hospital. I think you guessed what kind of girlfriends. Exactly. Naruto first took a picture of him. I have no idea how she did it unnoticed, and then she crept up to the busy Gigi and tapped him on the shoulder. Out of surprise he fell, which attracted the attention of the swimmers. However, he managed to escape. True, so that the photograph taken by Yamato did not end up with Toussaint or Fugaku-san, he had to help Naruto. What he didn't regret, his shirt was closer to his body, but he sincerely repented to me. I could only sigh in admiration at the resourcefulness of this little rascal and tried to figure out how to take revenge on her. It's a pity it didn't work out. On the first day, returning home under the supervision of Toussaint, I found a lovely picture of women's gatherings, Kachan, Tsunadeheim, Mikoto-san and, in fact, Naruto, who were discussing some feminine little things. Afterwards, sensing possible reprisals, the rest of the time she behaved surprisingly docile and generally tried to stay close to Kachan and the twins. I don't understand the delight that she felt while fiddling with them, and most importantly, Sasuke's strange look when the Uchihas came to us and he saw this picture. It's strange to see this, and it brings up idiotic thoughts. It was even more strange when Yamato persuaded me to help in swaddling Itachi and made me and Sasuke apprentice to him, although initially it was she who should have studied. I am still amazed how this little despot managed to do this. And I also envy Noriko, who wisely took the mission and will only return for the second stage. She sensed how looking after the youngest in the family would turn out. However, otherwise everything was calm. Having been caught once, I now carefully looked around and double-checked all my things 100 times. What is there? I even found the strength and time to learn how to install a couple more barriers. And before leaving the room or going to bed, I double-checked its presence 3 times and whether there were any errors in the installation. True, this didn't help much. It somehow still leaked out and created minor mischief, such as a weak explosion print on an inkwell. I didn't even suspect that this was possible. And it took me a long time to clean it up, a slippery floor near the bed or entrance, and many more little things. It was, of course, a shame in the morning to see the malicious glances of the rest of the family members when I left the room, carefully looking around, but it was better this way than repeating my experience. To which the others just chuckled, and at the end of this week, already leaving for the exam, Naruto sarcastically inquired, "Do I know that close relatives have similar chakra and barriers attached to blood usually let them all through?" Needless to say, after that it finally dawned on me how she got around them all. The most offensive thing, I read about it. He knew and yet he got caught so stupidly. But now the smiles of Toussaint and Kachan are clear, as well as the sympathetic pats of Gigi and the malicious glances of Tsunadeheim. I want to kill them all. They could have said this earlier instead of just observing. Traitors. Although I'm glad that Yamato is smiling again, it's worth being patient for. Well, in general, the Madhouse week is over. Almost. All I have to do is make sure that Naruto doesn't get into trouble before reaching the Forest of Death, and then others will be responsible for the safety of the children. I'll have to go on duty in the tower itself and wait for my return. It's unpleasant, but what can you do? Close relatives of the participants are prohibited from joining the detachments directly observing the passage. At most, as I was allowed, they were allowed to supervise at the written stage, and that's all. No exceptions are made for anyone, and this is correct, because people cannot always cope with related feelings. All the same, they would keep an eye on the younger ones, singling them out from the crowd, and this is bad. However, given the composition of the Yamato team, they will be watched much better than the others. It was quite boring to look at the concentrated faces of those riding, to place bets on how far one of them would go, same. However, soon all my boredom disappeared, and do you know who was the reason? Right. My restless Imuto and her fiancé. I don't know how they were able to answer all the questions so quickly, without copying and, apparently, also correctly, but that's not what surprised me. However, it wasn't just me, there were others too. Naruto, turning the sheet over, diligently drew caricatures of the ANBU officers watching them, emphasizing minor mistakes in disguise, and also wrote wishes. Sasuke drew a diagram how did of he the manage classroom to and the find out what
surrounding
she was
area,
doing, where he indicated
sits in
all
front
the
of her
decoys
and
and never
ANBU,
turns around, making a note that his
Telepathy?
work should be considered
Rave.
along with Naruto's
But
work.
then what?
I could hardly wait for the test to pass, and they finally went to the venue for the second stage. There we will have time to talk, and most importantly, the opportunity to do it unnoticed. And again my plans were thwarted, and by whom? Your very own Ka-chan, who came to congratulate Naruto and Sasuke and bring the things she requested, or rather sealed scrolls. Didn't Naruto take them with her in the first place? I stare at the back of her head with an irritated look, and only at the very end do I understand what's wrong. Relatives are not allowed to come and say goodbye to their relatives, but the examiners did nothing. Why? Yes, it's simple. It was a clone. And I realized this only after she, having given me the signed piece of paper, turned to me and, with a wink, dispelled it. Infection. You'd think I'd force her to talk to me. However, she is right. I would have forced her. I looked gloomily at the teenagers entering the open gate and promised myself to talk to Tusan, although it's better to talk to Ka-chan. She definitely should know what's wrong with Imuto. It's not for nothing that she defended her so zealously all the time. There are too many strange things going on around her, and I don't like it. I was distracted from my plans to extract information from my parents by a pat on the shoulder. Shursui and Itachi landed on either side of me. You don't even have to hope. Naruto won't give up so easily, Shursui chuckled. You can believe me, I was their mentor outside the village for a couple of months. This fox will remain silent until the last moment, and if he says something, it's not a fact that you will understand correctly. Do you want to say that he will lie? I chuckled. No, he'll tell the truth. There was merriment in the voice. But here's what he says, agree, Itachi's voice was heard from the other side. She has changed a lot, as has Myotuto. They became interesting conversationalists and good sparring partners, but they got rid of the talkativeness inherent in their age. Sometimes I'm even afraid to be alone with them. Me too, Obito and Kakashi sighed simultaneously on the next branch. Were you also assigned to watch? I turned to Senpai. Minato-sensei has increased patrols, they nodded. But we are here as mentors and do not have access to the forest. We will have to wait for them in the tower on a general basis. It's all strange, I frown. Tosen also called Gigi and Tsunadeheim here. Something's up, Itachi agreed gloomily. And our youngest know this. Moreover, Naruto hinted at something like this the other day, and Sasuke was not very surprised. I would even say that he felt gloomy satisfaction. It was as if he knew and predicted it all. It seems that I was not the only one who was surprised by this. Barrier, Itachi ordered briefly, and without arguing, I set up protection against eavesdropping. There was no need to worry about lip reading. The masks dealt with this problem perfectly. Even before she was given a week-long ban on technology, Itachi began to explain. Making sure that no one would hear us, she hinted at the elder's dissatisfaction with the choice of the new Kyuubi bearer, and that Danzo was eyeing her. Minato-sama is holding her own for now, but the situation is heating up. Toussaint also talked about something like that. The old people are unhappy that the Jinchuriki is leaving for our clan. Looking means, Obito and Kakashi said in a bad tone. He's too old for this. But now there are no questions left as to why the sensei returned everyone to the village. Agree, I nod and hear similar answers from Itachi and Shursui. I think we should go to posts. I say, feeling a burning sensation in the ANBU mark on my forearm. If any new data appears, we'll share it immediately, don't you agree? Reasonably, after exchanging glances with his clanmates and his friend, Obito speaks out. Remove the barrier, in which case we contact ours or Kakashi's call. I nod in agreement and hastily remove the barrier so that after a few seconds I can be moved to my place by Shunshin. It's a pity that I didn't find out about everything earlier, Toussaint, as if on purpose, gave missions at the border, and so often, and I was glad to be useful. I should have suspected something was wrong this week too, but Naruto took up all my time. I don't like to feel like a fool. Perhaps I should talk to Toussaint. It's not for nothing that he kept me in the dark all this time. Chapter 22. Second Stage. Meeting with Gaara. I enter the forest of death with a satisfied smile, because I was able to deceive my Enai-san. I see Sasuke glance back, exactly where our brother's chakra is felt, and then, looking in my direction, shakes his head disapprovingly. I stick my tongue out at him and narrow my eyes contentedly. I'm not to blame for anything, and Enai-san is to blame for everything himself. Nobody forced him to call me scary then. So all this week I took revenge on him. And now I just don't want to answer the questions he asks, because he's finally started to think with his head. However, it's my own fault. This week I made a lot of mistakes and gave away my knowledge anyone would be interested. True, the rest of the time Kachan or Bachan were nearby, so he simply could not ask anything. Yes, Kachan and Bachan a separate conversation. Bachan, having learned that Enai-san called me scary, and very scary, immediately agreed to help with the herbs and took out waterproof mascara. It took me several hours to make a truly permanent paint and a neutralizer, just in case I get dirty. And I didn't mind bartering with Enai-san for something useful. True, Kachan ruined my whole idea by forcing me to give it away for free, but oh well. Firstly, thanks to the help of the Arrow Sennin, Aoi already received what he deserved. Later Shursui-san and Itachi personally shook my hand. And Sasuke looked happy. Secondly, later she helped me pass the barriers to his room and gave me ideas. She herself helped me set traps in the room, as well as putting Enai-san to sleep so that he wouldn't catch fire, or helped me implement mine, printing on an inkwell, her work, but my idea, I was forbidden to use chakra. So we had to dodge. Moreover, Kurama kept his promise, and as soon as I accumulated chakra, no matter by meditating or just after rest, all of it was transferred to Shikaku, who absorbed it for his sweet soul. The week was busy. I not only mocked Enai-san, but also went to the hospital to create a first aid kit for all occasions under the guidance and help of Bachan. After all, in the forest of death we will have to rely only on ourselves. At the same time, I complained about the lack of equipment for Bachan, Kachan and Mikoto-san. By the end of the week, everything I described to them was sealed in double size. Food pills from a kimchi? What a hell of a way to do it! Bachan made her own signature ones, which, unlike Sakura's experiments from that world, were not just edible, but even tasty. No normal shuriken and kunai? Uchiha unparalleled throwing masters and nowhere to get the best. Do you want scrolls for sealing techniques, installing barriers, and just blanks for various seals? No problem. Kachan will spend a couple of evenings, and in addition to the above, you will also have a terribly functional kimono, on which seals are embroidered that will hide your chakra, soften the blows, where many seals have been made in which you can seal all your equipment. A convenient thing, and most importantly, thanks to the same seals, it is self-cleaning, and this, I tell you, is in the forest of death the most necessary things. Moreover, the payment for this was not high, just to sit with the twins, which I was even glad about. What can I say? Sasuke even helped willingly, even if he grumbled, but I saw that he enjoyed fiddling with the children, as did Itachi. Otherwise, they would not be such frequent guests with us. I already know Sasuke's character. If he doesn't want something, he can't be forced. Toussan and Fugaku-san didn't stay away from the preparations either. I honestly didn't even know how to react to their gifts. No, everything is clear with Toussan, and I was aware of how to use his special kunai. Partly there I never learned to do it as easily as Toussan, although I have not yet tried to move with the Hiraishin, including there was no need in the world. The capabilities of Sannin helped me, or I exploited Sasuke. His rinnegan allowed this. Then here, with the presence of a teacher, I think I'll learn him. However, Toussan's gift and his explanation of what it was for were clear to me, but Fugaku-san. He gave me a gun by an exact copy of what I saw from Madara back in the day. Why do I need it? He's twice my size. Yes, and heavy. Although that's not all. After consulting, they handed me a katana. No, they are definitely making fun of me. It would be better if they gave it to Sasuke. But no, they handed it to me. With my fighting style, you can only swing a sword. In general, the katana and gunbai have now taken pride of place on the wall in my room, because you can't put them away in your arsenal. They'll be offended, but it's hard to carry around, and they can't be given away, they will be offended again. Well, in general, this was how the whole week went on, and after that I gave away a little secret about how I got through all of Anai-san's barriers, although without Kachan's help, and ran away. Thank God, the first stage took place in a very calm atmosphere and I calmly answered all the questions, and then, out of boredom, I began to sketch the arrogant Anbu, who, if you believe their signs, began to place bets on us. Impudence. Where are their captains? However, it doesn't matter. I'm sure that Ibiki-san and Toussan will appreciate my efforts, and Sasuke will also compliment them. No wonder we exchanged symbols with him. Kurama said that Anai-san and Itachi were surprised. At least the echoes of their smell give it away. Surely they were wondering how we managed to coordinate our actions like that. Hee. Let them now suffer, wondering how we managed to pull it all off. Naruto, Gaara is half a kilometer away at 3 o'clock. Kurama's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Okay, I agree. Turn to my team and duplicate the words of my red-haired friend, Sasuke. Raccoon is half a kilometer away for 3 hours. I suggest sending the clones for the scrolls and meeting this psycho ourselves, I promised. Can you handle it? A short question to which I nod affirmatively. What matters to me is touch him, and then everything will be done for me, I say calmly and, turning to Sakura, ask, are you with us? I don't know what you're up to, but yes, Sakura responded, looking at us with a strange look, we are a team. I hope you know how to hide chakra, Sakura? I asked the question that will decide whether we take her with us or leave her with the clones. Yes, Shisui-sensei taught me this, and Rin-sensei helped me with concentration, Sakura nods decisively. I can hold out for about 20 minutes even while running. We look at each other with Sasuke, nod to each other and, leaving the clones with the order to get the necessary scroll, we rush towards the direction where, thanks to Kurama, I discovered the presence of Gaara. I need to meet him. We got to him quickly, he had just killed the last of the opponents. If I noticed the tread correctly, then they are from AIM. I had forgotten how cruel he was. Naruto, a team of a bug catcher, a dog catcher and a prude on the right hand in the bushes, Kurama tells me immediately as we silently land on one of the branches of the tree closest to that clearing. Sakura, Hinata and his team are hiding in those bushes. I barely audibly address my friend, take them away while we distract Gaara, and wait for us with them. And the scroll? Sakura asks just as quietly. Sasuke has it, so don't worry, I responded quietly, and we don't fight with our own people, we'll even help if something happens. Come out. Suddenly Gaara's voice filled with madness sounded. I know you're here, Kyubi. How rude, Gaara, I chuckle, landing without fear opposite Gaara, deliberately standing so that he would turn away from Hinata and the company, and Sasuke and Sakura would be slightly to the side. This will give them the opportunity to avoid being seen by the raging Jinchuriki for some time. And Sakura will be able to take our friends away, and Sasuke will take care of Temari and Kankuro. I don't need extra spectators, but I don't have any desire to kill them either. My name is Naruto and Kyubi and I two different personalities. Meanwhile I continue. Kyubi. Gaara doesn't listen to me, and I'm literally deafened by his joyful cry. Finally I'm having fun. Or maybe we'll just talk and drink tea? I propose, not particularly counting on success, but on the whole believing that this whole situation is in my favor. Firstly, Sakura will be able to take away unnecessary witnesses without any problems, and secondly, Sasuke will knock out Gaara's shaking relatives. You fool, run, he can't control himself. Kankuro shouted. Faster! Temari squealed no less in panic when she saw her brother's gaze thrown at them. However, not just a look. The ground under their feet turns to sand, another moment, and he will slam them down. What are they doing, idiots? He gave them time to escape by Shunshin, why are they slowing down? He crushed them with Ki, Naruto, Kurama growls in impatience. Come on, this is your chance. I ignore his hints and move towards these two alarmists, barely having time to drag them away from under the sand coffin. Stupid! I ignore Kurama's doomed voice. Don't stand like a pillar, otherwise he will finish you off. I growl at these idiots, and they recoil from me in horror. Tvoidvai glazaza! The panic in their gaze sobers me up. Apparently, I involuntarily took Kurama's chakra and directed it to my eyes. Now they are animalistic and red. However, there is no time to check. If it makes you feel any better, I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi. I mutter, and out of the corner of my eye I notice that a wave of sand is approaching us. I barely have time to push them both away and jump to the side myself. Crap! Now is not the time to be distracted by strangers. Glad you realize that. I hear relief in Kurama's words. You can act. The Pinkette has already dragged away the quiet team, and Sasuke is nearby and will soon neutralize those two whom you for some reason saved. Kurama! I am indignant, but they ignore me. I wake up Tanuki, he tells me, watching as I unsuccessfully try to get close to the dispersed Gaara. He chases me with his sand all over the clearing and doesn't let me get closer. You bastard! He's already on the verge of releasing Ichibi. It seems his seal is even weaker here than there. Naruto, be careful! Shikaku's voice suddenly rings out, on right. Crap! Escapes me. I didn't notice that Gaara had sprayed some sand under my feet, and I slipped. I almost have time to dodge the sand rushing towards me, but a small tongue still reaches me and clasps my wrist. Hurt! He broke it for me. At least I managed to pull it out before the sand wrapped around my entire wrist and crushed the bones. She escaped with little blood. Healing a fracture is still easier than restoring bones that have been ground into powder. Enough, Sasuke's voice is heard, and he appears opposite Gaara. The Sharingan burns in his eyes. He is angry and very angry. Damn, where are the others? On the left by the bushes, Shikaka mutters in response to my thoughts, and without transition, come quickly while the Uchiha is holding him. Fine, I nod, ignoring the pain in my broken wrist, jump up to Gaara and touch his forehead. The sand that usually protects him easily lets me through. He feels that I will not hurt Gaara, but just in case, I still whisper. I want to help him, Karura-san. I don't know, maybe it was my imagination, but I had the feeling that I heard a barely audible female voice telling me, I know, save him. Save my son. And I fall into his subconscious, finding myself in the desert. Yes, this place is even more dull than mine. However, in my subconscious I don't have two Ichibi butting heads, encouraged by Kyuubi, who has one eye on the fight between Sasuke and Gaara. Stop! What is he looking at there? Chapter 23. Why I was angry. Sasuke's POV. Many may be wondering why I snapped and attacked Gaara, even though Naruto and I initially shared our responsibilities. And I was just supposed to make sure Sakura didn't do anything stupid and take the kids away, and then knock out the kids later? I will answer this question, you have the right to know. As far as I can remember, I always looked at Uzumaki's back, I compared it with Anai-san, she was also always in front. At first it caused dull irritation, then it provoked hatred, but later I realized. I didn't hate her, I just wanted to protect her myself. But I was weak and, justifying my weakness, plunged into darkness. I can only smile bitterly. Looking at the past, I caused Naruto so much trouble. She was the only one who didn't leave me, and if at first it was annoying, I wanted to be left alone, then I realized that she remained the only ray of light in the darkness that surrounded me. She understood and accepted me for who I am, she saw all my shortcomings and forgave them. She didn't leave me alone, she proved time after time that she would always be there. A conversation with the resurrected Itachi then made me accept my feelings, and with the Hokage only confirmed me in my decision. I came to her aid and saw only a smile addressed to me. She, although he was still him at the time, didn't doubt me for a second, she believed in me, and I'm glad that she wasn't mistaken, but I was even more glad about Kagaya's gift. Without this we would not be able to be together. Although yes, I made enormous efforts to ensure that the transformation did not drive her crazy, but this does not change the fact that I was happy with this development of events, even if I understood why much later. Quite a long time passed before we were able to come to terms with the past. It took even longer for the wounds on the heart that appeared with the death of friends or, in my case, with the death of my brother, although not just death, I killed him myself, with my own hands, and the awareness of this will always be with me, healed. No one remained the same, everyone had their own demons that came at night, in their dreams. I was lucky, soon Naruto began to drive away my nightmares, and I her. We clung to each other with a death grip, feeling that when we are together, the cold recedes. At first just friends, then lovers and, as a result, husband and wife. For the first time in many years I was happy, but I again could not protect him, protect my happiness, my family. I trained so much, became stronger, for what? The moment when I saw Naruto being sucked into that funnel, I will never forget. I don't regret that without hesitation I rushed towards her and, using the abilities of the rinnegan, expanded that spatial vortex. I didn't care what would happen to that world, I just didn't want to let go of the only person who understood me. However, it wasn't like that. I didn't want to lose the girl I loved. It's quite difficult to accept this, but in the first seconds, and even then, after waking up in this world, I didn't lose my temper only because of the confidence that Naruto was somewhere nearby. I just needed to find her, and then everything would be fine. The living Tucson and Kachan did not cause a storm of feelings in me, although when I saw the living and healthy Anai-san with Shisui-san and Obito, I was shocked, and only I know what it cost me to restrain myself. However, perhaps it was the shock of gaining the memory of the local Sasuke and the confidence rising from somewhere that they were all alive and well and had no intention of dying. I was on the edge and only Naruto could calm me down. I was broken and preparing for the worst. I was sure that if I didn't meet Naruto, I would fall apart. My condition was aggravated by the thought that in that world at that age she was a guy. I didn't know what I would do if the same thing happened here, especially since the memory I inherited stubbornly said that there were no Uzumaki here, and this made me sad. My appearance at the academy was marked by joyful screams and squeaks from the youngsters, who had no instinct of self-preservation and carefully drove me crazy. However, I had long ago learned to ignore unnecessary things, although loud voices made me furious, as did their attempts to divide me. Naruto's appearance diffused the situation and saved the others from death. I was glad to meet her and I finally felt calm. Now everything will be fine. Needless to say, in the future I began to react to everything more simply and simply enjoyed Uzumaki's joyful smile. The days flew by, and I even began to get a taste for it. I began to remember my childhood, when I could come and get advice from Anai-san or beg for training from him. I remembered the time when there was not all that blood, when I had not yet followed the crooked path of revenge. I found my family again, my clan was alive, and most importantly, Naruto was nearby, although it was upsetting that we now lived apart, but I am sure that soon this unfortunate omission will be corrected. The mission to the land of waves showed how fragile happiness can be. She was again on the brink, saving me. How many times did I vow to myself that I wouldn't let her die? And again I couldn't do anything, on the contrary, it was because of me that she suffered. The realization of this was painful in my soul, and I would have withdrawn into myself again, but I was brought to my senses by Kurama, who quite colorfully described to me what an idiot I was and that this would only complicate everything. Having yelled at each other a lot and finally admitting that we were both idiots, we concluded a truce in order to be able to protect the one that was dear to both of us. It was Kurama who helped me expand my SCP sufficiently. If not for him, I would not have achieved Mangekyo so easily. However, is it simple? I didn't believe for a moment that she died then, but when I saw her covered in blood, I was ready to kill, stopped only by the realization that there was no one to blame but ourselves. Naruto warned that our appearance did not pass without a trace for this world. You have to pay for everything, but why does she always pay? The rest of the time until today I tried to be as close to her as possible. I don't want to see the face distorted by pain again. Apparently, Anai-san also understood my condition, so no one gave me any special obstacles. My clan knows too well what Uchiha affection is. However, despite all my desire to be close and protect, I again missed the moment when Naruto was on the edge. She lost it, and almost hurt herself. Who would know what desire I felt to strangle the one who provoked her breakdown at the moment I found out about it? It's a pity that I understood. Naruto would not appreciate my impulse to kill her father. She loved him too much, and for too long he was an idol for her, he was her family. I had to come to terms with it, but no one stopped me from doing little nasty things. Although I tried not to go too far, because he had the power to forbid me to see Naruto. I repent. I could have stopped the moment of Naruto's bullying of Aoi, because I was aware of the impending mischief, and it was no coincidence that the patrol that detained her brother appeared there. As, indeed, was the management at that time of Shisui-san and me and Anai-san. I specially set this up, not without the help of Itachi, who was amused by it all. And he was with me all this time, which means he saw all the preparations, because I know that they are friends, and also that such a mistake will be remembered by him for a long time. I won't lie, but she was only able to catch Jiraiya at the baths thanks to Anai-san, who cast a slight distraction genjutsu, which allowed her to sneak up unnoticed. However, this does not detract from her merits. Later, even without my help, she greatly complicated his life. I won't say that I approved of her behavior, but I couldn't help but admit that she was right. Not to mention the fact that at that moment I was much more worried about her promise to Gaara, who resembled his 13-year-old self from that world too much. He was insane, he was bloodthirsty, but it was impossible to convince Naruto. I had to put up with her stubbornness and try to minimize the possible damage. However, I strongly disapproved of her wanting to involve Haruno in all this. In my opinion, it is still too unreliable, despite all its recent changes. Although when has Naruto ever listened to anyone? She always did things her way. Needless to say, I was extremely relieved when she sent her off to lead Team 8 away. However, I also felt indignation at the fact that I was sent to check this. But I could not help but admit that this way it would be easier for me to approach my opponents unnoticed and disable them. However, I was late again. I made sure that these four got away, and I even managed to disable 2 Sonovites. But I didn't get the main thing. Do you know what feelings rose in my chest when I heard Naruto scream, and then saw her wrist twisted at an incredible angle? Do not know? I'll tell you, rage. All-consuming rage that someone is again trying to encroach on what is dear to me. I didn't really control myself then, giving in to my instincts. Using the Sharingan, I broke into the subconscious of the person responsible for the injury of my fiancé. Even Shikaku's roar didn't sober me up. I just did the same thing with him as I once did with the Kyuubi. I suppressed him, and then took care of Gaara. However, I only managed to deliver a few blows, which pierced his armor, but did not cause serious harm when new characters appeared. And if the second Shikaku simply rushed at his stunned copy, then Kurama began to chant encouraging slogans either in my direction or in the direction of Shikaku. Perhaps this is what sobered me up, and I extinguished the Chidori that had already begun to form. However, even though I came to my senses, I couldn't let this guy go so easily. He harmed my Naruto and must be punished, since I can't just kill him. Out of the corner of my eye I noticed that Kurama intercepts Naruto rushing towards us and carefully holds it in his fist, preventing him from interfering. I can't hear her screams. Everything is too well extinguished by the wind that rose from the battle of two Ichibi, but I don't need that. I already know that she's asking me to stop, but I don't intend to do that. I remember my fight with this sandbox. In that world, now I use the same tactics. I quickly move around him and strike from various directions. I use a weak genjutsu, but only to disorient him so he can't take advantage of the fact that it's his subconscious. I can already see the cracks in his sand armor. I'm sure there will be another blow, that's all. What the hell is going on here? I was not allowed to deliver the final blow, literally throwing a wave of sand away from this semblance of a man. However, they carefully discarded it. I wasn't even hurt. The theme just doesn't know when to stop. Naruto's dissatisfied voice sounded, and only after that I realized that the wind had died down. I don't care, Naruto. Shikaku's voice became lower, but did not lose its angry notes. Keep your boyfriend in line. He almost killed my Jinchuriki. Where else can I find something like this? All complaints about Kurama. He didn't let me interfere. I wasn't at all impressed by Naruto's bijou tone. Come on, brother. But Kurama's voice was full of fun. The little boy wouldn't have killed him, he would have kicked him a little and that's all. Besides, agree, he deserves it. Get lost, Shikaku did not share his fun. Now, thanks to your efforts, I will have to not sleep, but put the carrier in order. And yes, Naruto, I will give you some of my power a little later, when I get used to the abilities that I have inherited. Before he could finish his words, Kurama and Naruto were no longer in the subconscious, and his tail was falling on me. Deciding not to check what would happen when he landed on me, I interrupted the technique that allowed me to be in someone else's subconscious before this event. As soon as I opened my eyes in reality, I immediately came across the angry gaze of Blue Eyes. However, she didn't start making a scandal right there. She knows that it's much more difficult for me to tolerate her aloofness, so, pursing her lips, she simply turned away. Bring Kankuro and Temari to your senses. Without turning around, she ordered me coldly, and I noticed how she began to put a splint on her wrist. The desire to come over to help was instantly interrupted by a single irritated glance thrown by her over her shoulder, as soon as I took a step in her direction. I had to resign myself and go put the older dogs in order, but fortunately I put a mild genjutsu on them. A few kicks and now they are already drowsily looking around the clearing. As soon as their eyes stumble upon Gaara, horror appears in them and they rush towards him. Pfft! Yes, he is alive, I burst out irritably, for which I receive another angry look from Naruto, and she addresses them herself. There's really nothing wrong with him, it's just that our bijou never got along, and this is the result, she chuckled, but seeing even greater horror in the eyes of her interlocutors, she hastily added, Don't worry, Gaara wasn't hurt, but Shikaku will quiet down for a few days and won't be able to influence your brother. Is it true? There is undisguised hope in Temari's voice. Yes, she nods to them, and then to me. Come on, we need to find Sakura. Hey! Kankuro stops us, who shrinks under my unfriendly gaze. What? Naruto became interested, without even allowing me to open my mouth. Don't you need our scroll? He asks, taking out the scrolls of earth and heaven from his pocket. No, our clones have already obtained what they need, Naruto chuckles and, waving his hand, adds, See you in the tower. As soon as the last sound had finished, she took off and I had no choice but to follow her. Fortunately, she runs in the right direction. That's where Haruno and the others went. Chapter 24. The Path to the Tower. After leaving the Sabakano Society, I went to Hinata and the others. I pointedly ignored Sasuke and Kurama. They angered me too much. Okay, Sasuke, I can still understand his anger, but why didn't Kurama let me intervene? It's a shame. After all, I wanted to talk to Gaara, not start a fight. I want my friend back. And the idiots who thwarted my plans deserve to be ignored. Let them at least fall asleep guiltily, I won't back down. Naruto-chan, what's wrong with your hand? Behind my gloomy thoughts, I didn't notice how I got to the guys. Specifically, now Hinata was asking me in a voice full of horror. What the fuck, Uchiha? An indignant cry from Kiba, who chokes on words, receiving a murderous look in response, and is then intercepted by Shino. It's not for friends to communicate like that, he says calmly and, already looking at Sasuke, adds, Could you share your grief with us? We are ready to listen to your story. Fracture, I intervene in the conversation with a crooked smile. Sasuke is already on edge, there is no need to provoke him even more. In addition, I feel very well that although Kurama numbed the pain, I did not begin treatment, because I was unable to fix my arm on my own. Wrapping it with cloth did not help much. I need to apply a splint. Can you help? I'm talking to the girls. Certainly. Before this, Hinata and Sakura, looking at me in horror, instantly appear nearby. A couple of seconds and Hinata, having activated the Byakugan, begins to guide Sakura so that she folds the partially crushed bones on her wrist correctly. I wince from the unpleasant sensations and begin to help heal my injuries. Shino, let go! Kiba clearly did not want to calm down, diligently struggling and cherishing the hope that he could punch Sasuke in the face. I must. Stop it, Kiba-kun. Hinata raised her voice. You're disturbing us. Hinata. Hugo calmed down from such a tone from the always quiet and calm Inuzuka. Apparently, he has not yet met the real Hinata, the one who is ready to do anything for the sake of her friends, and now he is amazed. Poor fellow. You suffered an unpleasant injury, Shino said, letting go of Kiba, who was no longer trying to get involved in a fight with Sasuke, and coming closer. We are ready to help with the scroll. No need. The voice of my clone came very close, and he and Sasuke's clone landed next to me. We have everything, and in duplicate, he continued, quite cheerfully taking out 2 pairs of scrolls from his bosom and throwing them to Sasuke. And? I asked them curiously, nodding to thank the girls for their help, because I myself would hardly have been able to so carefully apply a splint to a rather inconveniently located wound, or rather, I would not have been able to recover without Kurama's help in this case. We found Karen. Sasuke's clone responded briefly and disappeared. Hey! What about the details? I was sincerely indignant and froze, receiving information from my already dispelled clone. It turned out that they stumbled upon it completely by accident. They simply noticed the tracks of giant bears, around which there were splashes of blood, and when they heard someone scream, they rushed to help. As a result, we have 3 bears getting high in genjutsu and a frightened Karen, who turned out to be a Kusa shinobi. However, something tells me that this won't change anything once Ka-chan finds out about her. Although I sincerely feel sorry for Tusan, because the lists of participants in the exam are brought to him, and accordingly, he should have known about Karen. And the fact that she herself does not know about her involvement in the Uzumaki clan will not change anything. I wonder how he will get out? How interesting. Pfft. Extra problems, Sasuke muttered. Well, don't tell me. Ka-chan will be delighted. I responded, forgetting that I didn't seem to be talking to him. It is unlikely, he muttered barely audibly. Karen is still a Sasuke. I was indignant. I agree with Uchiha, Kurama spoke. Karen of that world sucked all the juice out of Hozuki, she's hardly better here. You didn't get it only because of Sasuke. Hey! I was indignant. Who is Karen? Sakura intervened in our argument. Girl from my clan. I shrugged my shoulders and, seeing her bewilderment, sighed heavily and explained, the Uzumaki clan, Sakura, I belong to him. Is it really? She was confused. Tusan an orphan, he initially did not belong to any clan, I shrugged, telling what Jiraiya once told me during that long journey, or rather then he talked about the Yondaime, without telling the truth about my birth, but I still remembered. He entered the clan of my Ka-chan, because she is the heir to Haim. However, due to the fact that his strength and intelligence were appreciated, he received the right not to change his surname and pass it on to us. However, this does not change the fact that all his and Ka-chan's children automatically begin to belong to the Uzumaki clan. Me and Nori are not considered members of the clan. Well done, Uchiha! Kiba snorted. Woof! Akamaru echoed him in agreement. You're wrong, friend, I squinted slyly. Sasuke himself did not know such details until now, but Fugaku-san was well aware, and therefore did not object. HN sounded from Sasuke, and I, looking in his direction, saw dissatisfaction in his gaze. The Uchiha is right, it's time for you to go. Kurama's voice sounded in my head. Shikaku said that Gaara has already woken up, and if you don't want to run into him before you get to the tower, it's better to hurry up. However, let's leave the conversation about the complexities of relationships in my family. I agree with both of them. We need to get to the tower, and it is advisable to do this before the dog family. You're talking the point, responded Shino, who apparently decided to take on the duties of a negotiator, and in general played the role of leader in the 8th team. We want to hear your plans. I propose to unite. I put forward a proposal. What? So that I can team up with the Uchiha? Kiba howled indignantly. Pfft. Sasuke snorted rather arrogantly. Your words make sense. We have nothing to share, Shino responded calmly. The path will be safer this way. Agree, Hinata timidly agreed. What do you say, Sakura? I turned to the last person among us who did not speak out. I don't know, she was confused, but seeing my encouraging smile, she corrected herself. I don't mind. Then I suggest the following. I nodded, Hinata with Sakura belaying her in the middle. Hinata will check the area ahead for possible ambushes, and generally coordinate the others. Why am I in the middle? Sakura was indignant. Hinata's attention will be focused on possible danger, and you will protect her from surprises in the immediate vicinity. I shrug. No one is immune from surprises. Okay, she agreed without much joy. Then Sasuke will go ahead. As the most attentive, he will look for and neutralize traps, of which there will be more and more as he approaches the tower. Nodding at my friend's agreement, I continued, but was interrupted again. I can handle this too. Inuzuka was sincerely indignant. You, Akamaru and Shino will cover the girls from the side, since you work well as a team and can spot the danger before I can. I shook my head negatively. So you decided to bring up the rear of our detachment, said Shino. Are you sure of your decision? Your wound is serious, and the one behind you is in great danger. Yes, I nod. I have good hearing, so don't worry. Agree, Sasuke put an end to the never-begun argument. I was always amazed at his ability to end all conversations with one glance. This is the most optimal construction in our case. However, don't be a hero, Naruto, your arm hasn't healed yet. He's right, Kurama growled, sensing my indignation. Even with my intervention, it takes several days for treatment, and another week for a complete return to normal. Fine, I had to come to terms with it, because the only question on which they always agreed was this is my safety, and the Uchiha Kyuubi tandem a terrible thing. However, along the way we'll also capture Karen. The clones left her under a barrier 500 meters from the tower, near the river. As you say, Sasuke agreed. Sasuke's words, my agreement and support from Hinata and Shino decided everything. A few minutes later we were already running towards the tower under the barely audible displeased grumbling of Kiba. To my joy, we managed to arrive there first, even though we had to make a short detour to Karen, although we were only a couple of minutes ahead of Suna's team. I haven't seen Gaara so angry for a long time. Although, not evil, no. He was rather confused and carefully hid it behind a mask of anger. Crap! It's good that we at least managed to enter the tower, otherwise the battle would have been unavoidable. One can only hope that without the chakra poisoned by madness, he will be more adequate and listen to the voice of reason. Perhaps the only good news is that there was no attack from Orochimaru, but something tells me that this is even bad. Although we will hope for the best, we will prepare for the worst, as always. As soon as we hid behind one of the tower doors, we were faced with the question, what to do next? However, Sasuke and I knew very well what. We take out the scrolls and, opening them, throw them crosswise. A second, and Rin appears in a cloud of smoke, who cheerfully begins to explain to us the intricacies of this stage. I obediently listened to everything necessary, along with praises of our speed. As it turned out, we set a new record, even if it was more than an hour longer than Gaara had in my world. And making a pitiful face, I ask you to take us to rest, at the same time, as if by chance showing a hand with a splint applied. I see how her gaze instantly becomes serious, and then she nods with a smile at my request. 10 minutes later we were taken to a designated room and left alone. Not for long. Soon, Chapter 25. possible difficulties. We were unable to remain alone for long. Literally half an hour passed before strangers entered our room. However, both Sasuke and I felt them much earlier than they entered, because it is difficult for a trained shinobi to miss breaking the simplest security seal on the door, especially if he was the one who placed it. Wow! Sasuke, I envy you! Shirsui's sarcastic voice sounded. Settling down in a real flower garden! Was it wrong that he raised his voice so sharply, or did he simply not expect that Kunoichi, half dead from fatigue, could squeal so much? How glad I was that the walls here were thick and there was no one else nearby. However, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that in the next second he had to bounce off the pillow, through Karen, to whom I gave up my lounger. I myself had already climbed under Sasuke's side, and from the Senbons, Sakura's training with the Iraian in Anbu was not in vain, although his accuracy was still lame. True, not a single shell hit, not even on Norieni, who was standing behind Shirsui, but that's the fact itself. Hello, Shirsui-san, have you decided that since Nachan does not agree to dates, you will at least be on duty together? I lazily turned my head in their direction and asked. And hi, by the way, Nariko. Well, hello, little infection, Eni-chan responded kindly, looking at Shirsui with interest and waiting for his answer. Nice welcome, Shirsui responded, looking at the holes from the senbons and pointedly ignoring my question. What if we were less dexterous? Looking reproachfully in our direction, he asked. True, this only had an effect on Sakura. Even Karen was more persistent in this regard, although judging by the admiring look, you would have excess iron in your body. I shrugged, deciding not to raise the issue of dating anymore. Nariko is no longer little, she'll figure it out on her own, although I don't argue, Shirsui is cool. If I didn't have Sasuke, although. I don't even know. Itachi is also here. It's good that Sasuke doesn't hear your thoughts. Kurama groaned, and I could swear that he was holding back his laughter. That would be hilarious. I can't stand Sasuke versus Itachi for the second time. I answered him dissatisfied. You're right here. Kurama unexpectedly agreed, which surprised me a lot. However, the following words explained the atypicality of his behavior. Itachi loves his little brother too much, and will protect him to the last, and therefore you. Why lose a voluntary guard? Especially if it doesn't cost you anything? Comfortable. It's good that we were clever enough. Nariko shook her head, distracting me with her words from the desire to express everything I think to read. Look what you were thinking. It's convenient for him, you see. I decided to make a mother hen out of Itachi for me. Although I don't want to admit it, he's right in some ways. And do not say, nodded Shirsui, who was not at all offended by my remark. Pfft. Sasuke snorted arrogantly, who, like me, saw a short exchange of glances between Shirsui and Nariko, and a little later an exchange of signs. They clearly could not come to a common decision on who would tell us why they came. So why did you come? Having looked at their antics and realizing that without prodding they would continue for a long time, I hurried them. As far as I know, relatives are prohibited from visiting exam participants. We didn't come here as relatives, Norieni responded proudly, but seeing my skeptically raised eyebrow and hearing Sasuke's even more skeptical chuckle, she gave up. Tu-san, having heard Rinchan's report, asked us to check your condition and at the same time find out what kind of girl you brought with you. Actually, Minato-sama wanted to go and make sure you were okay, personally, Naruto-chan, but you know, added the words of Nanchan Shirsui, he could not leave the high meeting, but give the order to the ANBU to check easily. He spread his hands and looked at Sasuke and me, probably expecting that he or I would tell everything right away. Are you sure that I, or rather we, are okay? I responded, narrowing my eyes maliciously. You're being sarcastic, aren't you? Nariko snorted displeasedly. So it really is okay. However, what about the kunoichi who came with you, and not from our village? She asked me deceptively softly, casually nodding towards Karen, who had cowered into a ball from such attention. However, the forgotten Sakura looked no better. She clearly did not know what to expect from the two unbalanced Uzumaki. Replenishment to your crazy clan, muttered Sasuke, who was tired of watching Nariko and I destroy each other with our glances, for which he was awarded a sympathetic look from Shursui and the words spoken with only his lips. Suicide! What? Nariko exclaimed displeasedly. What did you hear, Eni-chan? I sang cheerfully, and smiling slyly added. And Toussaint didn't notice it. I wonder how Aji-sama and Kachan will react to this? I finished, batting my eyes innocently. Really interesting, Nariko agreed with me and burst into an expectant smile. Apparently, she and I are not so different, and why couldn't I find a common language with her? And I also thought that they were not alike at all, so they quarreled constantly, Sasuke groaned, slapping himself on the forehead. And they fight because, on the contrary, they are too similar. Agree, Shursui agreed gloomily, and Sakura nodded timidly. And they are right. It sounded sarcastically in my subconscious. Well, if that's all, then I won't keep you. Ignoring the outright provocation on the part of Kurama and the atypical behavior of Sasuke, I waved my hand towards the door. Are you already driving Yamato? Nariko asked me mockingly. I come to you with all my heart, and you, more strain in your voice will sound more believable, I advised her and, shrugging my shoulders, explained for Shursui, who was clearly more adequate now than my little sister. It's just that, despite all our coolness, Sasuke and I need some rest. Still, the battle with the chibi, who had almost escaped, consumed a sea of strength. Not to mention the fact that we couldn't seriously injure the host or, Kami-sama forbid, kill us at all. Stop! You fought with Suna's Jinchuriki? I decided to ignore Nichan's indignant cry, making myself more comfortable on the bed and pretending that I was going to meditate right now. We met him absolutely by chance. In the forest of death, Sasuke said, not without irony. You! Nichan began to choke with anger, but she couldn't look as impressive as Kachan. Well, what can you do, Kachan? A completely separate conversation. She holds the Hokage with a tight rein. Stop, Nariko, intercepted the Nanchan Shursui, who was ready to scratch out, at least try to, Sasuke's eyes. Then he looked at Sasuke and asked in an even, with a hint of threat voice, did anything else accidentally happen? Except that Naruto made us pick up future hemorrhoids for the Uzumaki clan and perhaps all of Konoha in particular? Only the deaf would not have noticed the mockery in Sasuke's voice. I felt being followed. Sasuke's voice a barely lost perceptible smile slipped across Shursui's lips, and it was still not difficult for me to imagine him frowning funny and, pulling one knee to his chest, resting his chin on it, but was unable to track down the observer. His technique is hidden better than Orochimaru's. I have never encountered anything like it. Overgrown flycatcher, I blurted out quietly, and widening my eyes I turned to Sasuke, meeting his shocked gaze. We only need Zetsu for complete happiness. After all, where he is, there is Akatsuki, but Obito is in the village? Did Madara really not just die quietly and peacefully, but manage to get someone to help him? Crap. Everything is aggravated by the fact that I myself didn't feel anything to be 100% sure, because at that time I was completely focused on Gaara and didn't pay attention to the rest, and Kurama had not yet fully gotten used to his power. Too little time had passed. He should sleep for a month to merge with her completely. In the meantime, he cannot fully help me. Let's hope not. Sasuke immediately pulled himself together, putting on the same impenetrable mask as he had worn before. Who is the overgrown flycatcher, and how do you, Sasuke, know Orochimaru? Shursui intervened in our conversation. It doesn't matter, Sasuke snapped and added conciliatorily, Shursui-san, tell Minato-san that we have something to tell him. Better Kachan or Aji-sama, I intervened, they have the opportunity to understand whether I'm lying or not. I will, of course, convey, Cousin Sasuke responded kindly to this, but maybe you can tell me everything now. For us, setting up a barrier is not a problem, nor is checking the veracity. I agree with Shursui, Nariko nodded. No, Sasuke said coldly, forcing my Eni-chan to swallow all objections with his gaze. I think there's still time. Yes, you! Noriani burst out indignantly. Nachan, it's not worth it. I intervened before another conflict began between Sasuke and Nariko. Knowledge is not always useful, you shouldn't involve outsiders in this. A short glance towards the quiet Sakura and Karen. Sometimes ignorance the key to a restful sleep. I can't disagree, but... Shursui began, but Nariko interrupted him. They're right, Shursui, not now. Nori stopped the Uchiha who had not already begun to speak, admitting that I was right, and then, catching my gaze, added, Okay, I'll warn Akeoaji-sama. However, don't expect to avoid a heart-to-heart conversation. Whatever you say, Eni-chan, I responded rather reluctantly, but I warned you. Well, now that you've sorted it out among yourselves, I'll ask just one question. Shursui got tired of watching our staring contest, and he decided to intervene. Should we increase patrols? No, it might scare them off, but it's better not to let your guard down, Sasuke answered instead of me. If that's all, we're leaving. Nariko nodded displeasedly and, looking at Karen, added, You should wait for guests. Karen, right? Yes, Karen nodded timidly at Nachan's words, and seeing that they were looking at her quite friendly, she added more confidently, Yes, my name Karen, and Naruto-chan said that I am Uzumaki. Well, if Naruto-chan said, Nariko chuckled and, glancing at me, said Aoi and Itachi have taken over their shift. No one will be moving into the nearest rooms. You can sleep peacefully, you will not be disturbed. Bye, she finished and slipped out the door like a blurred shadow. See you, Shursui said goodbye to us less categorically and also disappeared. After making sure that the door closed, I was not too lazy, got up and renewed the seal, turned to the guys who were carefully watching my body movements and suggested, Let's rest, tomorrow will be a busy day. This is especially true for you, Karen. Agree, Sasuke nods. Sakura and Karen did not dare to challenge my decision with him. True, there was a slight hiccup with who would sleep where, because there were only 3 sleeping places, and there were 4 of us. However, the issue was quickly resolved by Sasuke, who, glinting maliciously with his eyes towards the rest of those present, declared that he agreed to sleep with me in the same bed and even agreed to tolerate my advances. For this I was mercilessly beaten with a pillow, but on the whole we actually slept on the same bed. This didn't particularly bother us, especially since in this stone sack without heating it got so cold at night that the thin blankets provided did not help, and this was rather a necessary measure. What we, or it would be more correct to say, I, notified the girls who did not believe us in advance. We, of course, knew how to warm ourselves by accelerating the flow of chakra, but why would such people shine in front of Sakura or Karen? Let them better think that we suffer just like them. Chapter 26. Fatigue. Minato's POV. As soon as the door closed behind Naruto, I began to feel that problems would soon begin. My daughter behaved well for too long, let's forget about the bullying of my son for now, and followed all the instructions. It doesn't look like her, or rather, it doesn't look like the new Naruto, which is bold and daring, and not what it was before. Although I don't argue, I like this behavior. However, now I am more worried about the feeling of impending troubles than about the strangeness of my daughter's behavior. Kushina said that everything is fine, and I believe her, so I need to concentrate in order to react to the danger. However, despite all my composure, everything went great all day. I was able to fend off the attacks of the elders without much loss, easily besieged the presumptuous Danzo, was able to attract Hiruzen to help, and easily found a common language with the arriving Kage. Everyone visited us except Kumo, but at the same time the feeling of danger did not go away. I couldn't understand what this was connected with until I received a report about the fight between Naruto and the Kazekage's son. I immediately ordered a search for my daughter and promised my subordinates that if anything happened to her, I would give them to Kushina and temporarily become blind, deaf, and generally not be around at that moment. The threat worked, and within half an hour I received a detailed report on their actions. However, the presence of an incomprehensible girl chosen by Naruto was a surprise, and one that smacked of tangible problems. The matter was further aggravated by the people arriving at the tower. Undoubtedly, I was not going to allow many people here, but I could not refuse the Kage with several accompanying people and the heads of the Konoha clans. As a result, enough people had gathered and I had to talk to everyone and calm everyone down. It was complicated. They demanded too much from me, although I was glad that they were able to be removed from Konoha. In the tower it is easier to monitor them and ensure safety. Although what could threaten the strongest shinobi of the villages? But, on the other hand, surprises always happen, and it is better to play it safe so that there are no problems in the future. A few hours later I was pleased to hear that my daughter's team had entered the tower. Although I didn't like the report from Rin who met them. The injury that Naruto received and the general condition of the girl she brought were cause for concern. There was an urgent need to sort things out, and the only trusted people nearby were Shui and Nariko. No, I had nothing against the daughter or the genius of the Uchiha clan, but I remember how my daughters behaved like dogs. I witnessed a couple of times, as well as a couple of pranks, that Naruto helped to arrange for Shui. Perhaps that laxative in the staff canteen of the residence will not be forgotten for a long time. Although for the fact that she was able to add it to the water of Danzo and the elders who came to get on my nerves, I can forgive a lot. Work stopped for one day at the residence, too little payment for the fact that she saved me from the company of those annoying old men. However, as soon as I relaxed a little, those whom I did not want to see now found me. Minato, what's wrong with my niece? Kushina's brother's voice tore me from my thoughts. I wildly wanted to grimace and spit, because for all his positive qualities, he always put the clan at the forefront. Considering that I don't fit into the concept of the clan or am just an appendage to Kushina and my children, we didn't become friends. He was the first to tell me that I don't spend enough time with my children and that I was to blame for Naruto's isolation. Do you agree, as do my daughter-in-law and son Minato? Damn, Fugaku too. And I have nothing to say. The Anbu, although let's be honest, my eldest daughter and Shui, not Anbu, sent to check on them have not yet returned, and I cannot send the rest of my team. Firstly, they are all involved in spying on the Kage and their subordinates, and secondly, there is no reason to involve outsiders in family squabbles. Although I am still pleased that Fugaku puts Naruto first in his question, and not his son, this shows how important she is to him, and something tells me that this is not because their union promises considerable dividends. Naruto somehow mystically managed to win over the entire Uchiha clan. If I were a guy, I would go far. However, something tells me that if she wants, the fact that she is a girl will not prevent her from doing so. Crap. I want a day off. Hokage-sama, we had a conversation with Team 7, Shui in an Anbu mask, and a little later Nariko, also in a mask, appeared next to me, saving me from the need to answer provocative questions. Report, Shui, I ordered, noticing out of the corner of my eye the interest on the faces of the heads of the Uzumaki and Uchiha clans. It's good that I don't have to worry about privacy. Akeo, when he heard that it would be about his beloved niece, immediately created a soundproof barrier. Eat. Shursui responded. Team number 7 passed through the forest of death without losses, were able to obtain several sets of scrolls and set a new record for passing the second stage of the Chunin exam. There are no fatal injuries. Besides, Nariko interrupted Shursui in a tone full of malice, our little girl managed to fight a one-tailed Jinchuriki, win with only a broken arm, and also save a girl from the Uzumaki clan, who for some reason is a kunoichi of Kusa, and we learned about her from Naruto. She literally sang the last words. Miyamoto, as the Haim of the Uzumaki clan, has taken on the responsibilities of supervising and caring for the new member of the clan. She is awaiting the decision of the head. A real Uzumaki! Akeo proudly declared, but I felt that the problems were just beginning, because I wasn't the only one who had heard about the girl of the Uzumaki clan. Crap! How could I have missed this? However, I only began to understand the size of the problem with the following words from my brother-in-law. You will make sure that your daughter's efforts are not in vain, Minato? And by the way, how did you make such a mistake that you didn't notice the girl of my clan? You understand that this is unacceptable, right? I understand everything, Akeo. I sigh heavily. However, I wonder how my daughter was able to understand that this girl member of the Uzumaki clan? Red hair and the amount of chakra are not an indicator, but should we conduct a blood test for kinship in field conditions? It's not even funny. I turn towards my eldest daughter and clarify. Nariko, are you sure Naruto didn't make a mistake? I won't say it 100%, but Yamato spoke confidently, hesitating for a moment, but answering confidently and firmly. Nariko responded. Shursui? I cast a questioning glance at the second man who was going to check on the children. Someone must have noticed everything. The position and title are obligatory, so to speak. I agree with Nariko, Shursui nodded. Besides, I noticed that Sasuke was confident that Karen belonged to the Uzumaki, and spoke of her only as, I quote, about the future hemorrhoids for the Uzumaki clan and Konoha in particular. I didn't notice any uncertainty in his words. On the contrary, he spoke with full understanding of the situation. There was something else, Nariko added quietly, and she and Shursui looked at each other, and after her words Shursui continued. Sasuke said that he felt being followed, and literally, I felt being followed, but I could not track down the observer. His technique is hidden better than Orochimaru's. I've never encountered anything like it. Shursui said, copying the intonation of Fugaku's youngest son. When asked how he could know Orochimaru's abilities, he refused to answer. And Naruto also added that it could be an overgrown flytrap. Nariko added Shursui's answer. An overgrown flycatcher? Akeo was surprised. Who is this? They both refused to speak in the presence of others, explaining that time is of the essence and the girls do not need unnecessary knowledge, and it can be dangerous for them, Shursui told us. They asked to ensure a conversation with you, Hokage-sama. However, Naruto insisted that either Akeo Aji-sama or Kachan be present during the conversation. Nariko added, frowning. How did she explain this? Akeo became quite interested. She said you have a way of telling if she's lying or not, Nariko immediately responded, and she spoke with strange confidence. I couldn't do that. I get the feeling that she seems to know something that I don't know. Can you really do that, Aji-sama? Can, Akeo grinned. Although I am surprised that she was able to understand this, it also means that I was not mistaken about her. If I were a guy, I would know who to give the clan to. Where else would I find such an heir? But, Fugaku immediately intervened. She is already, one might say, part of my clan. So calm down. Exactly, Akeo said with sincere frustration. Maybe you will give Sasuke to my clan? Never! Fugaku snapped. And in general, I thought that we had already agreed on everything, Akeo. Do you really want to take back your words? Fugaku asked with a dissatisfied squint. No, but you have to admit, she will go far, Akeo smiled. She will help the Uchiha clan regain its greatness. Fugaku nodded in agreement, clearly pleased with his thoughts. Anything else? I turned to the guys listening with well-hidden interest. I'm not surprised by the behavior of my old comrades. They've been through a lot, and even now there's no point in behaving like snobs. That Shursui and Nariko are close enough to the heads of the clans not to be surprised by this, and this information will not go further than them. You can rely on them. That's all, Hokage-sama. Shursui shook his head negatively. It's clear, I nod. You can return to interrupted tasks. Yes, Hokage-sama. The guys' voices stop radiating emotions. They are in a working mood. Now you don't have to worry about them, which means you can ask your questions to others. I turn to the others and ask, what do you think about this, Akeo, Fugaku? I have long noticed that my niece and Sasuke understand each other perfectly, and your son, Fugaku, generally told me, I quote, if protecting her requires destroying the world. Well, this is an acceptable price for me, and I have experience. Akeo shrugged his shoulders. Don't know what this could mean. This is Uchiha love, Fugaku chuckled sadly. We love once, but our love is all-consuming. Naruto was able to gain our trust simply because she understood and accepted it perfectly. She's an absolutely amazing person. My friend shook his head. To be able to understand and accept the Uchiha with all his darkness, without being an Uchiha, this is not given to everyone. She is more mature than she seems. Behind her smile there is pain hidden, pain that no one but my son can understand. Fugaku tiredly massaged his temples. They cling desperately to each other, a devotion bordering on madness. Yes, I noticed that too, Akeo nodded, and I could only bite my cheeks so as not to express my surprise out loud. Yes, I noticed changes in my daughter and in her attitude to many things, but I can't be at home too much to see everything that my interlocutors listed. After communicating with your son before their engagement, I had a double feeling. At first I saw a young boy that he himself did not realize the importance of the step he was taking, but as soon as I looked into his eyes, this feeling melted away. Akeo shook his head. I felt like a little boy whose evil uncle put a kunai to his neck. I realized that if we did not come to a common opinion, he would simply kill me without hesitation. Then why did you agree? Fugaku asked, sitting down heavily on the sofa. As soon as I asked him what he thought about Naruto, he changed instantly. Akeo chuckled in response and followed the example of his interlocutor. Softness with tenderness in the voice, emotions in the eyes can be faked, but separately and with a lot of experience. Apparently he has it, but he didn't use it. And he wasn't joking about the destruction of the world then. Hopefully, we won't have to verify the veracity of his statement. I like this world the way it is. Agree. A heavy sigh escaped not only from me. What do we do? Voiced Akeo's general question. Wait, Fugaku responded tiredly, and believe. Our children will cope, they are strong. Fugaku's advice, by the way, was correct, but it was wildly difficult to follow. After all, there were more than 4 days before the start of the qualifying battles. An enormous amount of time. However, I got used to waiting. Without it there is nowhere in my profession, and during the time spent as Hokage, I learned patience. This is the first thing the young ruler has to learn, because contracts with large customers go through me. And the elders that were left to me after Sandaime-sama are still leeches, but with great influence, unfortunately. So we have to learn the art of diplomacy, and most importantly be patient when they once again come to me, dissatisfied with my actions. Considering that they are always unhappy. I need a lot of patience. It's good that at least I have an understanding wife at home. However, in light of recent events and Naruto's findings, it looks like I'll have to seek political asylum. It's a pity that no country, or rather, no country with good intentions, will accept me. I will have to dodge and do everything to soften my wife, and for this I will have to negotiate with the Kage of Kusa. However, it is unlikely that he will object. I already have Rin's report on the girl's condition at the time of her arrival at the tower, and what is written there, in general, considering my wife's relationship with the clan and my daughter's taking her under her wing. This looks like provocation of the Uzumaki clan and almost a direct declaration of war on the village. Well, judge for yourself. It was impossible to diagnose the bites all over the girl's body in the forest of death to anyone except her partners, and the presence of old scars and almost lingering marks of jaws of different sizes even gave rise to bad thoughts. We'll have to figure it out. The main thing is don't go too far and take the girl so that Kusa is sure that she gave her up voluntarily. I had to order first a kinship analysis, which confirmed what Naruto had said earlier, and then order the jounin of this Karen's team to be found and brought to me. He was found quickly enough, and was very surprised that they paid attention to him. Still, he wasn't such a big shot. However, I knew very well that even in small villages the title of Jonin was not so easy to obtain, so I was in no hurry to relax. First, I decided to find out where they got Karen from, and only then decide whether to reveal all the cards. The cover for my plans was the transmission of a message to Kagekusa. We had long discussed the restoration of the destroyed Kanabi Bridge, which I took advantage of, the Jounin, realizing why he was called, noticeably relaxed. Now Shursui came into play, and needless to say, using a genjutsu of this level this is a crime, who was able to quietly get everything necessary out of his head, and after the guy who didn't understand anything left, retell it to me. According to him, the following came out. Karen's mother was accidentally discovered on the border of Kusa and Suna at the end of the Third World War. They weren't particularly interested in how she got there. She was seriously injured and also pregnant. Not to say that they showed cordiality, but she was able to pay with some kind of relic for her salvation. The Jounin did not know the details about this, but he heard that it was after this that the commander of that detachment quickly gained strength and became the head of their village. However, the freebie did not last long. That woman, he didn't even know her name, did not survive the birth and died from loss of blood, which is not surprising, because after the war there were few doctors left. They decided not to kill the child, but no one was going to take care of him. He was sent to an orphanage, where the girl grew up until the people of their ruler came to recruit future genin of the village. That's how she became a shinobi. On the one hand, their ruler didn't act so badly. He didn't kill that unknown Uzumaki and gave her housing, allowed her to give birth, and even saved the child's life. But on the other hand, I don't believe that he didn't know about her belonging to the Uzumaki clan. And I wonder what kind of relic she gave him. With strength, everything is clear. She probably shared her knowledge of the simplest seals and ninjutsu, which, with proper training and perseverance, seriously raised him above the rest. From this we can conclude that their ruler is not a fool and is quite stubborn. This is both good and bad at the same time. Good because he won't have to explain what problems he might get into if I give all this information to the Uzumaki. But it's bad because it's almost impossible to make him give the girl away on his own. It is clear that he did not leave her life out of altruism. He probably wanted to use her somehow after she grew up. The genome of the Uzumaki clan is too strong, and an Uzumaki woman will only give birth to an Uzumaki from a clanless one, even if he took all the best from the second parent. If you look at it from this point of view, then it could well be prepared to create their own mini-clan of seal masters or used to strengthen the influence of the ruler. I heard he had sons, and one of them was on Karen's team. In this situation, he will be very dissatisfied with the loss of one of his sons by his future daughter-in-law. So what should I do now? I can't let the girl go. My wife's relatives, led by her, are quartering me, but I also don't want to aggravate relations between countries. Minato-chan? Fukasaku-sensei's voice distracted me from my gloomy thoughts, and I finally focused my gaze on the door to my office, where I saw Jiraiya-sensei with Fukasaku-sensei on his shoulder. Yo, Minato! He raised his hand. We were asked to tell you something, said Fukasaku-sensei, who jumped from Jiraiya-sensei's shoulder and handed me a sealed message. Judging by the complexity of the security seal, it can only be opened by the person to whom it is addressed. And who asked? Not in a hurry to open it, I asked curiously. Open up and you will find out, Minato, Jiraiya-sensei chuckled, lounging on the sofa with a blissful look. I had to shrug my shoulders and open the message, because Fukasaku-sensei was in no hurry to let me in on all this. Although the grains of Kyubi chakra that I felt on the letter evoked certain thoughts. Having opened the letter, I saw a beautiful ornate handwriting, indicating that the writer had spent many hours mastering calligraphy, and quite successfully, it must be admitted, and in the letter itself was the following. Hello, To-san! This, as you already understand, is a letter from your beloved daughter Naruto. Not long ago, Karen told me her life story and her speculations. After thinking a little, I came to some conclusions. I think you know more, but you can't disagree with the fact that it will be problematic to take her away officially, right? I want to offer you an idea on how to do this, so to speak, unofficially. Considering that the surveillance in the Forest of Death is not carried out too closely, and only by our village, this will not be difficult to do. As you were probably already informed, we arrived at the tower already with Karen. We will modestly keep silent about team number 8. I have already talked to the guys. They will remain silent. Considering the peculiarities of the second stage, only Rinnegan and the ANBU men you sent saw us. Tell Noriko, by the way, that she is an ANBU man, like me, a lover of greenery. It seems useful, but such disgusting. There is no particular difficulty in keeping this a secret. Now my idea is directly send people to the Forest of Death half a kilometer deep from the third entrance. There you will find a cave of giant bears. These are what Kusa's team encountered. I'm sure your people will be able to find evidence of the death of the entire team, and will retroactively register Karen as one of the Uzumaki clan. I think it's not difficult for you, as the ruler of the village, to do this, and Akeoaji-sama will agree with this. It will be easier for him to go through Kusa without causing unnecessary disturbances. But Karen doesn't care, she's ready to do anything to get out of her village. There is not much attitude towards her there, and the constant pulling of chakra, although it develops the central nervous system, in her case it is too painful. With love, Naruto! P.S. I hope you like my idea too, San. So, Minato-chan? Only now I noticed that my sensei took a seat on either side of me and was peering with interest at what my daughter had written. Good idea, I nodded to them, deciding that in this case there was no point in blaming such behavior for lack of culture, and eliminates many problems. I guess I'll do that. Well, that's good, Jiraiya-sensei grinned and, after watching how Fukasaku-sensei disappeared into a white haze, he went out. It's time for me to look for inspiration too. Good luck, Minato, you'll need it. That's for sure, I muttered to myself and plunged into the whirlpool of events. To accomplish everything that Naruto advised, a lot would have to be done. It's so good that I have trusted people. Even with trusted people, I barely managed to finish all my work before the start of the qualifying battles. There was too much red tape, and even Kagekusa, who was outraged by this turn of events, had to be calmed down. Well, at least it wasn't difficult to pick up the girl from the tower. Fortunately, my daughter and I have the same call, and although it's difficult to persuade toads to help, it's quite possible. Therefore, there were no problems on this side, and the rest of the Uzumaki greeted the girl warmly, and willingly helped her get comfortable. Now she didn't remind me of the little girl who arrived for the exam, but what did she look like? So all Uzumaki are relatives, and there is nothing surprising here, as well as a similar name. True, no one was going to let Karen out of the quarter for reinsurance, but I think she'll soon do without it. As soon as I finished settling all matters with Uzumaki and Kusa, I was called to announce the qualifying battles. Too many guys passed, and this time, to our surprise, Kiri sent quite strong teams. Perhaps the only village that did not respond to the message about the exams was Kumo, but we always had bad relations with them. So there is nothing surprising about this. However, now we are not talking about this, but about the fact that too many teams passed to the second stage of the exam. To be exact, 5 from our village and 1 each from Oto, Suna, and Kiri. After explaining the rules and the departure of some of the genin, unsure of their strength, I announced the start of the battles under the refereeing of one of my personal bodyguards, Genma Shirani. He himself hastened to join the rest of the observers, for whom a separate platform had been set up. What's most curious is that almost all the mentors from other villages chose not to approach their teams, which, in my opinion, looked rather strange. Chapter 27. Qualifiers. Obito's POV. As soon as Minato-sensei's last words were heard, Genma took the floor and notified everyone that the names of the fighters would be displayed on the electronic scoreboard. The order is random and will be determined by the computer. This is partly true, although not always. There were methods of control, but the sensei was not a supporter of such methods, so he tried to keep everything fair. The only thing, I'm sorry that the number of participants is odd and therefore, one will pass just like that. Not fair. But nothing can be done. And in our time, teams were tested, then there was freedom, not like now. The first fight was between Uchiha Sasuke and Takumi Teru from Kirigakure. Well, not the best option. According to rumors, he is a relative of the Mizukage and has an improved genome, although, unlike his royal relative, there is only one, but it is not yet known which one. I wonder if it's only Fugaku-sama's youngest son who is so unlucky, or if the rest of our students won't have the best opponents either? However, we didn't have to indulge in thoughts for long. The guys quickly vacated the site, leaving only the participants, and the fight was announced. The first thing the enemy did was the area was filled with lava. But a moment before that I noticed that Sasuke's eyes flashed red and he grabbed some kind of scroll from his pocket, but then nothing was visible. Apparently, Sasuke used something from Sudden's arsenal. I can't explain such thick steam any other way. Crap. He'll cook. Left, Minato-sensei began. How long should I wait before I am declared the winner? Sasuke's voice interrupted his sentence. Futon de Tapa asterisk. Naruto's voice sounded at the same moment, and all the steam from the arena was blown away in the direction from which the children were entering, and a moment before the technique stopped working, I managed to notice a purple glow around the figure of my student and his unconscious opponent. Well? This little bastard declared arrogantly, and nodded at the boy lying at his feet. If I understood correctly, he used something from the arsenal of genjutsu on him, and then hit him on the crown. I hope he didn't kill his opponent. Our village doesn't need problems. Winner, Uchiha Sasuke. Having checked the pulse and called the doctors, Genma announced, I see Minato-sensei throwing a questioning glance at him and his response shaking his head. Phew. This means the guy is alive and relatively healthy. That's good. I wouldn't want to get involved with that absurd woman. I mean, with the venerable Mizukage. The next battle did not start immediately. First, we had to bring the arena into divine shape, and only then release the next participants. They turned out to be Abirame Shino and Abumi Zaku, nothing interesting, in my opinion. Although it is worth noting that Shino-kun impressed me, he is the real son of Shibi-san. I was able to find the enemy's weaknesses in a short period of time and using them, win. Well done. At his age I couldn't do that. I was too impulsive. And even now, if it weren't for my friends, I could have gotten into trouble more than once. The fight between Yamanako and our student didn't make much of an impression on me, although I couldn't help but notice that Sakura had grown a lot in her skills. Her mistake that she wanted to show off her skills in Irajutsu and strike the chakra no mezu, but forgot that it takes time to form. Idiocy. It's good that at least it didn't blow, but it was a draw, and that's bread. Perhaps I shouldn't tell Kakashi about this and ask Rin to do it? Otherwise our captain will remember my first exam. I accidentally choked on my candy then, and didn't intentionally let the team down. But you can't prove it to him. Baka Kakashi. Still trying to look the coolest. And this with his favorite book? I wonder why Jiraiya-sama still decided to give it to him. And most importantly, why did Minato-sensei ignore this? Next was the fight between Tsurugi Mizumi from Konoha and Kankuro from Suna. The middle child of the Yondaime Kazekage is apparently a puppet master, to be more precise, a future one. As expected in my predictions, I was not mistaken, the boy turned out to be a puppet master. At least he actually used his dolls in battle. Caught our genin in a simple trap. Made him believe that the puppet this is he, and at that time he was hiding on the sidelines. Although I never expected that there was still someone in our village who owned Nen no Kaizo ***, it didn't save him. The puppet he had broken came to life, and with its help, Kankuro broke all the bones of the poor fellow, even though he had already given up by that time. The guy clearly went too far. That's right, Genma gave him a warning after announcing the winner. The rules are set for everyone, and the fact that he is the son of a ruler is no excuse. However, something tells me that he won't get off that easy, otherwise why does Naruto have such a promising look? And the boy, having stumbled upon him, somehow turned too pale and swallowed nervously. Has he really already experienced her excessive attention? If it's true, then I even feel sorry for him. She didn't even feel sorry for her brother. The next fight was Tenten from Team Guy against the eldest child of the Kazekage Temari. I can't say anything, but she's a tough kunoichi. And our girl was not her opponent. She is a master of weapons, she can hit any target within sight, but she is absolutely zero in ninjutsu. She simply had nothing to oppose to the strong gusts of wind that her opponent rewarded her with. After using Kamaitachi no Jutsu *** Temari, Tenten's weapon was literally swept away in an instant, and her body received many cutting wounds, although the most dangerous, perhaps, was that her fall ended with her back on the fan. Dangerous. I hope she didn't break it. Although it's already good that, despite the fact that our kunoichi did not give up, Temari did not kill her. Perhaps Genma's words and warnings had an effect. Next up was the fight between Akimichi Choji and Dosukinuta. It was expectedly fleeting. Little Akimichi has not yet reached the required level of strength, and he lacks the experience to fight a nimble opponent. Asuma's student is too clumsy. Although I don't argue, in the Ino Shikacho combination he plays an important role, but so far without their support he does not represent a serious opponent, he is too soft. He didn't want to fight at all, one might say, they forced him with the promise of going to a barbecue. And this is the genin presented for the exam? Yes, even I had more ambitions at his age. No wonder he lost. However, If there had been more space in the arena, it is unknown how it all would have ended. And so, one hit against the wall and one sound technique and he's passed out, although, again, thank Kami-sama, he's alive. We also missed the corpse of the Akimichi heir in the exam. I don't want to see Choza-sama in anger. I like him good-natured much better. The next fight was Inuzuka Kiba against Hozuki Sujetsu from Kuri. Well, what can I say? The little scout had little chance, because Hozuki is also quite an interesting clan. Their bodies can turn into liquid, naturally, there are many buts, and if the Inuzuka had knowledge of Katon or Raitan, Hozuki would have already been carried forward feet first, and so, several unsuccessful attacks with Gutsuga and Kiba and his puppy were imprisoned in the water prison. A few long minutes and he loses consciousness, winner of Hozuki Sujetsu. Well done, guy. He was able not only to win, but also to maintain the fine line between lost consciousness and choked. The next fight was between Shikamaru and Tsuchikin. The girl turned out to be no mistake. As an Uchiha, I can only admire the subtlety of the illusions she created. Amazing performance. I lack a little experience, but with time it will pass. Perhaps she will have this time in the future. I doubt it. There are too many strange rumors floating around Oto. If at least a third of them are true, they won't let it exist for long and they will knock out, first of all, the old people and talented youth. Enough about the sad stuff though. Let's continue watching the fight. So, despite the fact that I expected this talented girl to win, Nara ruined my hopes. It's not for nothing that this clan is considered the clan of geniuses. The ability to defeat an enemy with minimal skills is worth a lot. Well done! We have a good generation of replacements growing up. Damn, I say like an old man, I need to improve. We have brought up good help. Not the same again. We have great friends. Yes, that's just right. Next was the fight between Naruto and Yuki Haku. An interesting fight, a battle of technique and perseverance. I somehow didn't expect that there would be such talent among young people. This is amazing. As soon as they gave the go-ahead for the fight, Naruto and Haku simultaneously threw kunai with shuriken, Naruto, and Saban, Yuki, at each other. The weapons collided in the middle, but to my surprise they did not fly apart. Apparently Naruto had imbued her kunai and shuriken with Futon's chakra, thanks to which they easily cut Haku's Sanban. As a result, Yuki had to escape from the attack, but that was not all. It was only after the kunai entered the ground that it became clear that each of them had blast seals attached to them. Here they are exploding, and the arena is enveloped in sand lifted from the floor. Second, and a sharp gust of wind clears visibility, but for some reason this doesn't make me happy. Naruto found herself trapped in ice mirrors. Give up, you fought bravely, but you can't defeat me, the voice of the ice boy sounded over the arena, and I heard a satisfied chuckle from the Mizukage envoy and his words that now the sensei's daughter has no choice but to give up. Crap. Naruto's arm is injured and she can't fight at full strength. And she was asked not to show the Kyuubi chakra. Really? Will she really have to give in? What about her dream? You know, Haku, Naruto suddenly straightened up and smiled. In some ways you are right. A dome of ice mirrors is ideal against single opponents with speeds similar to yours or slightly higher. The execution of your jutsu is beyond praise. However, grin, and she crosses her fingers, Kage Bunshin. A copy of her appears next to her. This is a simple clone, how can it help you? I think I see a smug smirk blooming on Sasuke's lips. It looks like he already understood something. But what? This technique has not yet been perfected by me, and I did not want to use it, but you left me no choice, Haku. Both Naruto sigh sadly and simultaneously shrug their shoulders, shaking their heads. However, she suddenly becomes serious and looks up at the podium. She looks straight into Sasuke's eyes, although the Hime of the Hyuga clan is standing next to him, maybe that's her, and says, "I never give up, this is my ninja way. Hiraishin no jutsu." What she said? Hiraishin? It seems that not only I was shocked by this, but also Minato-sensei. And do you know what's most surprising? No. She actually moved. She and her copy. They moved towards the kunai, which I just noticed. When did she manage to stick them on the hands of the statues? And, by the way, outside the circle of mirrors. When? Was it really at that moment when visibility dropped for a moment? Futon, Shinkigyoku *******. Naruto did not stop there, and air bullets flew at Haku's mirrors from both sides. Considering that she spared no chakra for the technique, in general, the guy was hit hard, but he was still on his feet and, apparently, was ready to fight further. However, he could not keep up with the two Narutos, and as a result 2 seals attached to his back. If my vision serves me correctly, then they were created by Kushina-san and had the property of paralyzing and disrupting the circulation of chakra. Not every jounin will get out of such a trap. And to be on the safe side, Naruto also tied the boy with fishing line. In general, Namake's Naruto won this fight. I watch as our student, with a contented look, rises to the participants' platform and falls into the arms of a happy Rin. However, the rest of the Kanakovites also come up to congratulate her. And Minato-sensei did not fail to put the Mizukage messenger in his place, who with great reluctance admitted that he was wrong. I feel that after such a speech, Fugaku-sama will be imbued with even more love for his future daughter-in-law. Her victory was too unexpected. I know the approximate speed of my student. Without using the power of Bijou, of course, she had no chance against this Yuki, especially considering the specific bonuses from the jutsu he used, because there is already a certain rumor about him glory. Moreover, Shursui, who often patrols the border with Kiri, spoke about his abilities. If it weren't for Hiraishin, by the way, where did she learn it? Judging by the reaction, Sensei has nothing to do with it. She would have failed or been forced to use the power of the Kyuubi, which would have automatically disqualified her. So many surprises in it. And everything will go to my clan. I don't even know whether to rejoice or sympathize. My clanmates have not yet gotten over such a gift as me. The next battle was between representatives of the 2 Hyuga branches. When performed by children, it is not very beautiful, but that makes it no less deadly. The blows are aimed at destroying internal organs without noticeable external damage, a very dangerous style. Naturally, it has its drawbacks. For example, it is useless against Jinchuriki and members of the Uzumaki clan. In the first case, the circulation of the chakra is easily restarted from an internal source, albeit not always friendly, and in the second the same thing, but from accumulation seals. True, Jinchuriki can still create a dense barrier around themselves from aggressive chakra that will absorb any harm, but this is already specific. However, this does not apply to the rest, and catching a blockage in tenketsu or an imbalance in the central nervous system is not the most pleasant thing in life, but to achieve such a level of mastery of the Juken, you either need to be a genius or trained for a long time. Judging by what I saw, the boy has both. However, he is unnecessarily cruel, especially to himself. Now he is not hurting Hinata, but himself. By stabbing her, he is trying to destroy something inside himself. If it weren't for the timely intervention of the judges, and most interestingly, Naruto and Sasuke, the boy would have destroyed the poor girl in an attempt to find inner balance. Well, judging by what Naruto told him in the silence that followed, I wasn't the only one who realized this. True, how should we react to Naruto's words? You say that fate cannot be changed, but you have never fought. You talk about hatred, but you have never encountered its real manifestations. When you are hated by what is inside and by those who surround you outside, when you are alone against the whole world and other people's hatred surrounds you everywhere. You talk about a caged bird, but you've never really been locked up. Fate? I prefer to create it with my own hands. And a little later, Sasuke, who, having watched how Naruto leaves a clone in his place, and she hurries after the little Hyuga, adds, "You were in vain talking about fate, Neji. Who else but Naruto knows what it means to go against her without hoping for help? She was able to pull out of the darkness someone who had no return from there." Why did I get the feeling that he said this about himself? Only now, when could he have time to fall into darkness? Crap. If it weren't for the firm conviction that it was Sasuke and Naruto in front of me and that they were not captured or exposed to enemy techniques, then I would have considered them spies. But why have they changed so much? What was the impetus? After all, I'm not the only one who notices the old pain at the bottom of their eyes. However, I was not allowed to think for long. The last battle was announced. Fight between Rock Lee from our village and Dog No Gaara from Suna. It became one of the most traumatic fights, but for some reason it seems to me that Gaara felt sorry for his opponent. And I'm not the only one who doesn't like me very much. The guy is strong. What are its weights worth? But he lost. However, what I don't like most of all is not this, but the fact that Gaara practically did not take his eyes off Naruto throughout the entire fight. What did my student do to him? And why did she smile at the end of the fight? What's going on here?